Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2014 LAPESC School Board Candidate Forums. I am Mandy Mitchell, chairperson of the Forums Committee and your moderator for this evening. The Lafayette Parish Public Education Stakeholders Council is a coalition of 16 independent education stakeholder groups with a common commitment to improve overall academic achievement, to eliminate the achievement gap, and to increase the high school graduation rates of all students. Our vision is to ensure a world-class education for every student in every public school with sufficient resources to unlock their transformative abilities so that 100% of our students reach their full potential and graduate from high school prepared to succeed in post-secondary education. Throughout the month of March 2014, 9 partner organizations teamed up to host a series of moderated roundtable discussions in order to listen and learn about the education issues most important to the Lafayette community. One overarching thread in the roundtable discussions was the need for all decision makers to continually focus on increasing student achievement and preparedness. The result of these conversations was the development of a common vision for our future. The vision is centered upon governance, facilities, and the 100% in, 100% out turnaround plan. Please visit www.commonvisionlafayette.org to learn more. At this time, I would like to acknowledge and thank our sponsors. We'd like to thank the 705, the Greater Lafayette Chamber of Commerce, the Pugh Family Foundation, and United Way of Acadiana, and we also would like to thank our partners this evening, AOC and the Light Center. Thank you to the audience and to those who are tuned in via AOC for your attendance today. This wonderful turnout is a display of the community's keen interest in public education in Lafayette Parish. Candidates, welcome, and thank you for accepting the invitation to participate in this evening's forum. For everyone's benefit, I'll briefly cover the ground rules. The candidates will be asked questions from 7 select categories. Candidates, you will have 2 minutes to respond. At the 30-second mark, our timekeeper will flash the yellow card. At the 2-minute mark, the timekeeper will flash the red card, at which time you must end your remarks. We will alternate who within each district gets to respond first so that everyone has a chance to do so. And please direct your responses to the audience, not your opponent, as there will be no rebuttals allowed. We have a very tight time frame, so use your 2 minutes wisely. We're asking the audience to hold your applause until the very end. And at this time, I'd like to ask everyone to please silence your electronic devices as we are live on AOC. I am joined this evening by co-moderator Jason Huffman, fellow LAPESC member and Director of Organizational Impact Strategies at United Way of Acadiana. Jason will briefly introduce the candidates present, and then we'll begin.
Thank you, Mandy. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce our candidates for this evening. Candidates, if you would, please wave and acknowledge when I read your name. Ms. Erica Williams, District 4. Kermit Bouillon, District 5. Justin Sintani, District 6. And Kathleen Espinoza, District 6. We also have a couple of candidates who could not make it this evening. Timmy Chasson from District 4 declined to participate, and Britt Latchelet had previously accepted, but due to a work-related conflict that arose lately, will not be able to join us this evening. All right, candidates, let's begin. The first topic this evening will be school system governance. During the community roundtables held earlier this year to develop the common vision, there was a repeated strong sentiment that the board oftentimes gets too involved in management and operations decisions, rather than focusing on vision, goals, and policy for Lafayette Parish school system. The question is, what do you see as the board's role and responsibilities versus the role and responsibilities of the superintendent? We'll begin with Erica Williams, District 4.
Good evening. The role of the board as well as the superintendent is to adopt a common vision. That common vision, the board is tasked with setting policy. The policy that the board is tasked with setting will also ensure that we have the proper resourcing and programming to achieve the common vision. The superintendent is tasked with overseeing the day-to-day operations of our school system, and the board will hire and evaluate our superintendent based upon his ability to deliver on the plan that he has put in place. Each member of the board, as well as the superintendent, are advocates for public education. They also should be transparent to not only the internal stakeholders, but as well as the external stakeholders. Their involvement with the board, as well as the superintendent, is to have community engagement that will assist in the education of our children.
Thank you. Next, Kermit Bouillon, District 5. Same question. What do you see as the board's role and responsibilities versus the superintendent's role and responsibilities?
As a school board member, you're required to attend many ethics trainings over the course of your service as a school board member. It has been stressed to us over and over and over that there's only 3 things that a school board member is in charge of. School board member is in charge of policy, the school board member is in charge of the budget, and the school board member is in charge of the superintendent. It might sound strange for you to hear me say this, but I only have one employee that works for me. His name is Pat Cooper. That's the only man I can hire and the only man I can fire. And so with that in mind, I've been very content to allow the superintendent to run the schools. We brought him in for a reason, and that was to take care of our problems that we were having in Lafayette Parish. And as far as micromanaging the superintendent, I've never felt that it was my duty to do that. We pay the superintendent nearly $200,000 a year. He has a PhD and I don't. So I put all my confidence in him, and surely if he needs me for anything, he has my phone number, he knows how to get in touch with me, he can email me, he can call me, and we can agree to disagree on certain things. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm very, very happy to allow the superintendent to do the job that he's paid to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, District 6, Justin Santani. Same question. The role of the school board role and responsibilities versus the role of the superintendent and responsibilities.
Well, first, thank you to the LAPESC organization for having us here tonight. It's a tremendous public service in what is usually a difficult race for candidates to get exposure. So I really appreciate the work you've done and the effort you've put in to have this forum tonight. It's also my daughter Serafina's 5th birthday today, and I really was convinced that she'd be disappointed I wasn't there, even though she did her best to convince me otherwise. She said the best present I could give her was to wish her a happy birthday on live television. So happy birthday, Serafina. I don't believe her, but I have to deliver. As for governance, this is not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of state law. The other night at the school board meeting, they had a 30-minute conversation on when a school can call in a substitute custodian. They followed that up with a 20-minute conversation on how many counselors should be allocated to each school based on population. This isn't their job. Their job is to set policy and hire a superintendent. That's it. If I'm on the board, that's the job I will do.
Thank you. Next, also from District 6, Kathleen Espinoza. Same question. Role and responsibilities of the school board versus the role and responsibilities of the superintendent.
All right, thank you, Jason, and happy birthday to Serafina. That's a beautiful name. Yeah, so the way I see it, in the school system, there are 2 sides to it. There's management and there's governance. And I think it's easy for us to understand what management means. I think it may be more difficult for us to understand what governance means. And so for me, what a school board does is basically 3 things. Number 1, they have to understand system operations. They have to do their homework. They are partners along with the central office staff to articulate the message and the operations of the school system. Number 2, school board members have to have a vision. They have to have a vision. They have to push the system to be better. to be effective with a limited amount of resources. And third, they represent the 220,000 people in this parish, which means that you're representing a lot of different people with a lot of different ideas, with a lot of different problems, people that are in the system, parents, teachers, support staff, the business community. So it's our job as the school board, or whoever is elected to the school board, it's the job of the school board to be that liaison between the public and the management side. So for me, what I would like to see to kind of mitigate, which I know has been a common complaint of school system politics, is that there is and perhaps there already is, but there needs to be a clear protocol in place so that board members, when they hear constituent concerns, that they go to the appropriate staff on the management side, and then they have that reassurance that those concerns are being met. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is also in the topic of school system governance. School board members are elected for particular districts within the parish, but then the school board in its entirety has the purview of the entire parish. How do you plan to balance the needs of your particular district with that of the entire Lafayette Parish? And this time we'll begin with District 6, Kathleen Espinosa.
First I'd like to say that I think a lot of the problems that I see in my district, in District 6, are some of the same problems that we share across the parish. Do I have schools that are crowded in District 6? Yes. Do I have schools and facilities that need renovation and construction? Yes. Do I have students that are not meeting the expectations of their parents and their teachers? Yes. Do I have issues with transportation, transportation infrastructure that's being stressed? Yes. So I share these same issues with the other districts. So for me, what I would like to take to the school board is an attitude of teamwork. We're all in this together. We have a limited amount of resources which we share, and so we need to think very carefully and very intelligently about how we prioritize the resources that we have so that we can do what's best for the system as a whole.
Thank you. Also in District 6, Justin Centani, same question. How do you balance the needs of your district with that of the parish at large?
The needs of District 6 coincide with the needs of the parish at large. Because Lafayette High is the largest high school in the system, we have the schools of choice, we have the Health Academy, we have the gifted program, we have special needs students. Because we're in the center of town, because we're the only district that is entirely within the city limits of Lafayette, the kids from around the parish come to District 6, and so their needs are going to be met by advocating for the schools in District 6. As for the district itself, what I intend to do is use my monthly school board salary to host district meetings. I'm going to buy pizza and tutors and babysitters and anything else parents and teachers feel like they need to conveniently find me and tell me what they think of the job I'm doing, because I intend to hold the superintendent accountable, we hold teachers accountable, we hold students accountable, and I intend to be held accountable as well.
Thank you. Mr. Bouillon, District 5, same question. How do you balance the needs of your district with that of the entire parish?
Yeah, I want Mr. Centini to invite me to your pizza party.
You got it, man.
Balancing the needs of District 5 as compared to the rest of the parish. Obviously, I represent over 15,000 constituents. I think it's very, very important that you have to focus on your district. And with that being said, I have made it a point to visit my principals many, many times since I have been elected. And I have sat there and I have talked to some of the teachers some of the times, and I've listened to them. And I'm glad to say that most of the times my principals tell me that everything's going good. I mean, couldn't ask for any better than this. So there's a lot of good things that take place in the school system. And again, I know I'm here to represent all of the children in the parish. And one of the things that that was just mentioned earlier on is that we have some overcrowding issues at some of our high schools. Lafayette High has somewhat like 2,500 students. The second biggest school in Lafayette Parish is Karen Crow with about 1,800. The third biggest school is Acadiana High in my district with 1,600 students. And then there's Karen Crow, and the lowest population is at Northside with about a little over 700 students. So with that being said, it's very obvious to me that you can't have 700 kids in one school and 25 at another school. We're going to have to look at redistricting this parish one day. And before we do that, we need to talk about building a new school. So once we start talking about building a new school, then we're going to have every right to talk about redistricting the parish and getting all of this. So it's very important to look at the entire district and not just focus on your own individual district.
Thank you. Erica Williams, District 4, same question, balancing the needs of your district with those of the entire parish.
Unfortunately, when you deal with District 4, we deal with a unique set of issues and problems. Some of the problems in District 4 include, but are not limited to, poor nutrition, chaotic family environments, school readiness deficits, poor school achievement, lack of parental involvement, and poverty, just to name a few. So when you're dealing with District 4, we have some needs that have to be met before we can start to educate our children. The very first thing that we need to pay close attention to is early childhood programs. If we can get our children in District 4 ready and prepared to enter kindergarten on level, then we will have a better chance at them being successful in the educational setting. We also need to have early intervention of our at-risk children before they enter into the third grade. If we can get them motivated before they enter into the third grade, then we have a higher chance of success in the later grades. We need to have them on a career path by 6th grade and a graduation plan by the 8th grade. We have to create a vision in District 4 in order for us to be successful with our population. If we focus on District 4 at this point and redirect and change this district, which is a district that is performing well below the curve, then we can improve the entire academic success of Lafayette Parish.
Thank you. Our next topic is that of school district leadership. As a board, your most important responsibility is the selection and oversight of the superintendent, to whom responsibility for administration of the school system is delegated. When you reflect on the last few years in Lafayette Parish school system, we have a two-part question. What is your assessment of the performance of the current superintendent, and what qualities do you look for in a superintendent? We'll begin with District 5, Mr. Bouillon.
I remember when we interviewed Pat Cooper, he made a very interesting comment. I want to make sure I get it right. I think Hillary Clinton came out with a comment, it takes an entire village to raise a child. Cooper said, we have to change the way we do business in the village. And pretty much that's what he's done since he's been in Lafayette. It's a two-part question, and I'm very, very proud of what our superintendent has done. When he came down here, we were a C district school. He has managed to get us to a B district, all the while talking about the turnaround plan, where he says if we stick with him and we stick with the turnaround plan, we will become an A district. Why would you not support that concept? It's so important for people who are coming into Lafayette Parish, especially the people who are moving here. They're all looking for a good school. And there are some fine, fine schools. I wish I could say all 44 of the schools were A schools, and you can't say that right now. But I agree so far with everything that Pat Cooper has done. And in the qualities of the superintendent that you refer to in your question, you know, I looked at Pat Cooper and what he did in Mississippi and what he did in West Feliciana Parish. And in West Feliciana Parish, with the program of the pre-Ks that he implemented down there, they are scoring some high scores right now that this plan is now working. It takes a lot of time for these plans to be implemented. If we're going to sit here and think that we can implement a plan and in 1 year, we don't see the results that we want, and we get rid of that plan, we're defeating our entire purpose. It takes time, and I have heard this from teachers. You're implementing a program for us to teach. Let us work at it for a couple of years to see if it's going to work. So I'm not ready to make a decision on Pat Cooper after only 2 years. He has a contract for 4 years.
Okay, thank you. Next to District 6, Kathleen Espinoza, same question. What is your assessment of the performance of the current superintendent, and what qualities do you look for in a superintendent?
So I love the Lafayette Parish School System, and I know I'm surrounded by people who also share that love for this system, and I'm also one who believes that this system will not sink or swim on the shoulders of a single individual. I think that this community is invested in the long-term success of the system, and I think that we need to focus on the efficiency of the operations of the central office, as well as the efficacy of the governing structure of the Lafayette Parish School System. For me, an effective superintendent has 4 qualities. They are the chief communicator, able to articulate the complexities of a school system to the public at large. They are the chief manager, able to put a staff in place that executes with efficiency and success the operations of the system. They are the chief cheerleader, who lauds our successes at every opportunity, at the same time identifying our deficiencies and attacks them like a bulldog. And finally, our superintendent should be a chief collaborator. A culture of collaboration has to start at the top, and we should consider our professional staff in the schools, teachers, support staff, and administrators as the first go-to for how to maintain an effective system. To the extent, as far as my assessment of the superintendent on these measurements, I think there's always room for improvement.
Thank you. Also, District 6, Justin Santani. Same question. Your assessment of the current superintendent, and what qualities do you look for in a superintendent?
I think Dr. Cooper's doing a fine job, especially considering the resources and the support he's been given by the current board majority. As far as evaluating him, this is all I have to go on, because we hired him 2 years ago and we asked him to turn us into an A-rated school system. He came up with the turnaround plan. The board adopted it and told him, this is what we want you to do. But I saw the evaluation card from this past summer that they used to evaluate Dr. Cooper, and not a single mention in that evaluation was about the turnaround plan. So I don't know how we get any kind of reasonable scores or any kind of reasonable information about where we are as a school system when the goals we've set for him are not used to measure his progress. So that's what I would do if I was on the board. I would certainly sit down with the superintendent at the beginning of the school year and say, here's what we want you to be at the end of the year. And then at the end of the year, we go over what we said at the beginning of the year and see where we are. I mean, it seems like a simple concept, but I think it sometimes gets lost in the noise, what the goal of an evaluation is. As far as qualities in a superintendent, I'm looking for an effective leader. And an effective leader, he communicates, he delegates, and he gets out of the way once he hires people to do the jobs that he needs done.
Thank you. District 4, Ms. Erica Williams, same question. Your assessment of the performance of the current superintendent, and what qualities do you look for in a superintendent?
Yes, sir. I am in the middle of a dissertation. I have had plenty of years of research experience. I've taken a look at the turnaround plan and all of the efforts that have gone into organizing the turnaround plan, the research, the people that were involved in the implementation of the turnaround plan. And I think it's a fabulous plan. I think it's a fabulous plan, and it is something that I would love to jump on right away, because I think it's going to have some proven results. For a superintendent to tell me by the year 2018 that my school district would be an A-rated school district by 2018, that's exciting for me. That's also a challenge for me, and I welcome challenges. I think that Pat Cooper is doing a wonderful job when it comes to directing our children and directing our system in the right direction. I think that in Pat Cooper, I think that we have a visionary, and we just fail to see that at this point. I think we have a visionary, because in the turnaround plan, There are a lot of things in the turnaround plan that help me improve my life as a child and help me transition my life. So I definitely know that the resources that are there are resources that will work in D and F schools. I also think that he has a proven track record. A proven track record is very important when you're looking at bringing someone in that is supposed to be beneficial to your system. And I think that he's a transformational leader. A transformational leader is essential. And I think that we have settled for the status quo for too long, and it's time to transform our community, and I think we have the right man to do the job.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. We are going to switch gears to fiscal and budgetary issues. Lafayette Parish School System began this fiscal year with a deficit of over $20 million, citing contributing factors such as increased retirement and health care contributions while the state MFP remained flat, increased investment associated with the implementation of the turnaround plan, and dollars following the students to the new charter schools. So this is a two-part question. Given this year's budget shortfall, what would have been your approach for addressing the needs of Lafayette Parish School System? And do you believe additional revenues will be needed in the long term in order for LPSS to be a high-performing school district? And we'll begin in District 6 with Justin Centani.
First things first, we have to get our own house in order. You know, my approach on the board would have been to fix the budget process, which I think is completely backwards. I don't understand how we start the budget process by telling principals and teachers what resources they need to educate their students instead of asking them what resources they need to educate their students. The only people who know that the answer to that question accurately are the principals and teachers who are in the school every day. The give and take of a collaborative budget process will eventually produce ownership of the fiscal performance of the school system. And while I do believe we'll need more resources in the future to be an A-rated school system, we won't get that money until we competently manage the resources we already have. Thanks.
Thank you, Justin. Ms. Espinoza, the same question. What would have been your approach to addressing the budget shortfall, and do you believe additional revenues will be needed in the long term?
I think that what people need to realize is that the most significant component of the budget shortfall was the charter schools. Plain and simple, we had it this year, we're going to have it next year. So the first thing that I would want to address is to address the issue of the unfair allocation of Lafayette Parish tax dollars to out-of-state corporate interest. Secondly, you know, I look at, you know, one of the things that came up in the budget process was the idea of unfunded mandates. You know, it's this kind of general term. What does it actually mean? Well, why don't we figure out what it actually means? You know, we spend a lot of money, I would imagine, on standardized testing in our schools today. It's drowning our teachers. When, to me, we hire a teacher to teach, and part of teaching is developing assessments to measure benchmarks as students go through the school year. So are we paying teachers to do a service, and now we're paying testing companies to provide the same service? Let's look at that in our budget to try to address some of those unfunded mandates. General fund expenditures, I know in the last 10 years our general fund budget has increased by about $100 million. Let's look at that. Let's look at if we're duplicating services within our general fund budget and try to leverage partnerships with the community to maybe mitigate the impact on the general fund budget. You know, when I see our budget, when I see our revenues, I see a lot of opportunity. We have a reserve fund that in 2007 was $4 million. Today is at $70 million. We can think very intelligently about the bonding capacity of that reserve fund to begin a facilities execution strategy. Number two, we have a dedicated tax that generates revenue for our largest expenditure in our budget, which is teacher salaries. That is an opportunity. We can use that to compete regionally to keep our teachers in Lafayette Parish. And number three, we've had surplus tax collections. We have $7 million this year, $8 million last year. We can earmark $15 million for facilities. We've got a lot of opportunity. We just need to think wisely about how we want to use it.
Thank you. Moving over to District 4, Ms. Williams, what would have been your approach for addressing the needs of our school system given the shortfall that we began with this fiscal year? And do you believe that additional revenues will be needed in the long term?
Thank you. I think that it's unrealistic to think that with the growth of Lafayette Parish that we would not need any additional funds. So yes, there will be additional funds that will be needed. Also bring attention to a 16 mil tax that we allowed to expire, and think that we could have filled some of this budget shortfall with that 16 mil tax. Now, with the implementation of a tax, I would prefer to see a dedicated tax. I think that Lafayette Parish is going to need to have trust in the school system and trust that we are doing the right thing with the taxpayer dollars that we are collecting. So I think that a dedicated tax with an expiration date, meaning that we do a 1-year tax, a 2-year tax, or a 3-year tax that is specifically dedicated to specific projects, and we are able to show the public that we are utilizing the money in the right fashion, and we're able to show the public that it has an expiration date where they can start to gain trust in what we're doing with the money, and we can be good stewards of the money.
Thank you. District 5, Mr. Bouillon, as an incumbent, I do believe you did vote against the budget. So what would have been your approach for addressing the budget shortfall? And do you believe that additional revenues will be needed in the long run?
First of all, I want to agree with Ms. Williams. We allowed a 16 millage tax to roll off of the books. Not this board, but a previous board years back. That money totaled to be about $25 to $28 million a year. So that's $28 million a year that we're not getting, but that tax was in effect. When we start to talk about taxes, I have certain issues with that, and I'll get that later in my comments. But I was there when we tried to balance the budget. And if you recall, every time I supported the superintendent's budget, I agreed that since we do have $74 million in a rainy day fund account, we could have used some of that. I was willing to agree to maybe use up to 10% of that monies. Now, understand the rainy day account is this. If a major catastrophe would hit Lafayette Parish and we have no funds coming in whatsoever, we have enough money to make payroll for 3 months. So that's what that money is used for, but we have an excess of monies in that account. So I was willing to use $6 or $7 million of that money to balance the budget. Obviously, the majority of the board didn't agree to do that. They wanted to cut, and to this day, they have cut $2.9 million, and our students and our teachers still don't have their textbooks, and we are at the end of September. I disagree with that 200%. Now, when we talk about a new tax, I'm a Republican. I don't like to hear that word. So when Mr. Cooper and I talk about it behind closed doors, we agree to disagree. Dr. Cooper thinks we need a tax. I think we do not need a tax. But at the end of the day, Dr. Cooper and I can shake hands and walk out of that door and be one, and we can agree to compromise. So will we pass a tax? I don't know what this new board will do. I don't know what the public would want to do with a new tax if they'd be willing to accept it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bouillon. Let's talk about facilities. It is no secret that within Lafayette Parish, we have our fair share of issues with public school system facilities. The average Lafayette Parish school building is 47 years old, which significantly exceeds the national average. With Lafayette Parish school system facing overcrowding at some schools, aging facilities at others, and technology upgrade needs at most, how would you propose addressing these critical facilities needs? And Mr. Bouillon, we'll start with you.
You know, that's one thing I've enjoyed following as a school board member. I'm sorry, I'm having to take some cough drops because I have really had a problem coughing. I have really enjoyed looking at the construction going on, and I was really hoping that in my first 4 years I could have said that I helped to build a new school in Lafayette Parish, but that's not the case. Looks like this board had more pertinent issues than building schools. Regardless, I was looking and noticed that in the year 2002 we built 4 new schools in 1 year. Now think about that. We built 4 schools in 1 year under the administration of Dr. Zolkowski. And yet, we can't come to an agreement to build even one school. And we know we have to have this on the south side of the parish. There's no doubt about that. And in my district, I would like to let you know that I represent Judy's Middle School. Judy's Middle School is one of the oldest schools in the parish. It was built in 1929, along with Lafayette Middle and Moss Prep, which Moss Prep was, at that time was Moss Middle, NP Moss Middle School. Those buildings are almost 90 years old. How long do you think we can continue to use those buildings in the year 2014? So, yeah, we're going to have to do something about the buildings. We're going to have to figure out something, how we're going to pay for it. And I think it's very critical that somehow, some way, if it's not a tax or it's not a millage or something, we have to figure out how are we going to pay to maintain the buildings. But again, Ms. Williams was right. Every month we get an additional sales tax revenues in Lafayette Parish of almost $1 million. That's $12 million we pull in per year, so we could do something positive with that.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, in District 4, how would you propose addressing the critical facilities needs that we face in Lafayette Parish?
I think that when you say critical, you're speaking of something that we need to be addressing yesterday. So I think that we need to devise a strategy where we prioritize those needs based upon the safety and security of our students and staff. When we do that, we need to come up with a dollar amount that we need to move on in order to repair those particular needs. Then we need to find out how much we have allotted out of that budget to address those needs. In Lafayette Parish, most likely there's going to be some additional funds, but I think that we need to start to think outside of the box. I think that we should start thinking about different grants, different business community opportunities that may be there, and also public projects such as Adopt the School programs. And I was at Home Depot about 2 weeks ago, and I was purchasing some products, and I just started talking to the lady behind the counter about schools. And she told me that there was a program with Home Depot where they sponsored a school, and her particular school happened to be Northside High School. And I said, okay, tell me about some things that you've done for Northside High School. So she started to name the different projects that Home Depot had sponsored at Northside. I said, well, when are you ready to sponsor some more? She said, well, I've been waiting for someone to call. Those are the type of opportunities that we cannot let pass us by. These are community opportunities that will save money in our budget because organizations want to get involved.
Thank you. Moving over to District 6, Ms. Espinoza, I'll ask you to answer this question first. How would you propose addressing our critical facilities needs?
Yes, so I have seen maybe 3 separate plans that identify our system needs. There's the master facilities plan, there's a facilities element to the turnaround plan, and I served on the superintendent's community education planning committee last summer where we were presented with a principal's wish list. So I've seen a lot of plans. What I haven't seen is a plan to execute construction, renovation, and repair. And so I think that would be, for me, as a first order of business, is to come up with a plan to execute facility expansion, facility renovation. At the same time, alongside a plan to execute this, we need to address how schools are used. We have a lot of different programs at a lot of different schools. We need to look at the distribution of schools across the distribution of students across the district, and that needs to be in line with how we address a plan to execute facility construction. So, and the second part of the question, I mean, I agree with Ms. Williams. I think that there are creative ways, perhaps, of funding facilities that we're not looking at. As I've said before, I think we should leverage the reserve fund. I think we should think about our bonding capacity that we have with a $70 million savings account. I think that we should look at the surplus revenue that we generate every year. Like I said, past 2 years, $15 million. That could go a long way toward immediately beginning construction or renovation.
Thank you. And Mr. Centani, how would you propose addressing the critical facilities needs that we face in Lafayette Parish?
Well, the conditions of our facilities is a direct result of the school boards consistently squandering the public trust over the past decade. We will need money to bring our schools into the 21st century, but there will not be any new tax without restoring that trust with the public. We're on the front page every day for everything but our core mission of educating children. We can't solve needs in the classroom or ask for money to solve needs in the classroom by paying an attorney in the courtroom. How many buses could we buy to stop picking up children at 5:30 in the morning? How many teachers could we hire for $175 an hour? And how many textbooks could we buy that we haven't purchased yet for the $20,000 a month we're paying the Baton Rouge law firm to investigate our superintendent? These are examples of why the public doesn't trust us. If elected to the board, the public can rely on me to be a part of a board that collaborates and plans the needs prioritizes the needs of the district. And it's only at that point that we'll be able to act and move our system forward.
Thank you. Let's next turn to student, school, and district performance and accountability. According to Louisiana Department of Education data, there is a tangible achievement gap in Lafayette Parish between free and reduced lunch students and those paid lunch students, and between minority students and non-minority students. The question is this: do you hold as a core belief that all students have the potential to perform at grade level, regardless of their background, with the exception of students with severe learning disabilities? We'll begin in District 4, Ms. Williams.
Wow. Every time I hear that question, I cringe. Every time. Statistics says that children living in poverty are more likely to have difficulty getting to school, resulting in chronic absenteeism. Statistics also say that children of single mothers had lower scores than children from two-parent families in cognitive development. I came from a home of a single mother on welfare and food stamps. I was held back in the first grade because I had a teacher that believed that I could not learn. It took me to the 8th grade to finally get a teacher that believed in my abilities. And graduating now with my PhD with a 3.875 GPA, I am going to tell you that we have students sitting in D schools and F schools that can learn at and above grade level. I just cringe when I hear this question, because I know the potential of the students sitting in some of the school districts that we have written off. I know their potential. Yes, all students in all seats in Lafayette Parish have the ability to learn at or above grade level.
Thank you. Next to District 6, Mr. Centani, same question. Do you have the belief that all children have the potential to perform at grade level regardless of their background?
Yes, I believe that is a true statement, because if it's not, why are we even bothering to try? You know, when failure is not an option, we can't start off by making an excuse for when we eventually fail. Our children are not failures. Our children are simply failed by the adults in charge of them. I spent yesterday following Dr. Leonard around Lafayette High because I wanted to learn how the largest high school in the state consistently achieves at such a high level. And what I found there was that they have gifted students, they have French immersion students, they have English as a second language student, they have at-risk students, they have special needs students, and there are 2,400 of them. I mean, and they're in a facility that is old and needs repairs and needs to be replaced. And what I found that Dr. Leonard has instituted there is a culture that says we will not accept excuses. We're not going to use these as excuses. They are challenges to be overcome. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that every child gets the education that they deserve regardless of their background. Some children live in poverty. Some children don't get the support at home that they need. The school system isn't going to be able to fix that, but what we can do is we can work to overcome it and support the children. I really wonder sometimes when we talk about questions like this, are the children making excuses for us when we fail them?
Thank you. Ms. Espinoza, same question. Do you believe all children can perform at grade level regardless of their background?
Yes, that's an easy question. And I'm glad when you referenced the achievement gap, you referenced free and reduced lunch, because to me, the achievement gap, it's a poverty gap. And the strength of the turnaround plan, the vision of the turnaround plan is that it expands the mission of the public school system in Lafayette Parish. It's no longer just about educating children. It's about providing the essential needs that children are not getting in the community around them. So the achievement gap is really not just a problem for the Lafayette Parish public school system. It's a problem for the community. I would like to say too that I graduated from Lafayette High School, and there's an achievement gap at Lafayette High School too. We need to think beyond the letter grade. I mean, that letter grade that identifies these schools is really a very limited measure of what is actually taking place in the school. We need to be smarter about how we measure performance in our schools. We need to look beyond the letter grade. The state accountability system is very limited in its scope, and I think that Lafayette Parish, as a board, I think that we can do better. We can create a better measurement system that actually gives us the information that we need to identify where the problems are at the school level. And I think, one of the things, the group that I'm involved in, we had a forum a couple weeks ago on the state accountability system, and one of our speakers, who is an expert in assessment and measurement, was talking about the gathering of perception data, that, why aren't we asking students to evaluate their schools? Why aren't we asking parents to evaluate their schools? Why aren't we asking teachers to evaluate their schools? From that information, and frankly, it seems like we can do it pretty cheaply, we can actually target where those gaps are at the school level. And that's the kind of initiative I'd like to see the Lafayette Parish School Board take.
Thank you. District 5, Mr. Bouillon, same question. Do you believe all children can perform at grade level regardless of their background?
Absolutely. A lot of people don't know my background, but I'm from a poor family, and my parents were illiterate. They spoke more French at home than they spoke English, and yet I was able to make good and passing grades all through elementary and high school. When I think back of my grandfather, who was a blacksmith and who could not speak one word of English, it's amazing sometimes when I wake up in the morning to see where I have come from such a disadvantaged family. But all in all, it shows that an education plays a vital role in getting you out of financial duress. We in Lafayette Parish are trying to work with all of these kids to make sure that they can all achieve. And what we have is the schools of choice. We have some kids that can enroll in the schools of choice in arts, in foreign language studies, business law, engineering, technology, and health. I think it's a wonderful thing that we have done here in Lafayette Parish. Don't think for a moment that adjacent parishes have schools of choice such as we do. We in Lafayette Parish have the French immersion programs. You would think in Vermilion Parish they would have French immersion programs. No, sirree. They refuse to spend the money to take care of their French language in Vermilion Parish. But look at what Lafayette, the center of Acadiana, has done. Last year, I was very fortunate when Lieutenant Governor Darden accepted my invitation to come to Prairie. And he and I and Dr. Cooper toured the French immersion programs, and Lieutenant Governor Darden was extremely, extremely impressed of what we're doing in Lafayette Parish. So we have a lot of good things going, and I do believe that everybody, regardless if you're white, black, rich, or poor, you can succeed.
Thank you. Our next topic is that of charter schools and privatization. With the continued expansion of charter schools across the state and here locally, what is your view of the role of charter schools in public education and of the presence of charter schools here in Lafayette Parish? We'll begin in District 6, Ms. Espinoza.
Okay. So I think there are good ways to charter schools and there are bad ways to charter schools. And I think that in Lafayette Parish, we have chosen a bad way to do it. In fact, we really didn't even choose it. The Board of Elementary and Secondary Education chose it for us. So I think, and I think that the way Louisiana charter school law is written, it renders an economic injustice to the taxpayers of this parish and to the children of the Lafayette Parish Public School System. It is inequitable, and it is ultimately ineffective. We are paying for schools we did not necessarily choose to pay for. We are paying for schools that provide a fraction of the services that our public schools provide, and we are duplicating services in some cases, and we are literally selling ourselves out to out-of-state corporations. So I see this as a real problem. And I see, you know, to me, originally the way charter schools were intended were to identify particular needs in communities. They were meant to be laboratories for innovation. This is not what they are in Lafayette Parish. And I think we really, I mean, as a community, we need to understand what it means for the proliferation of charter schools in Lafayette Parish. I don't know if you all are aware of this, but the Department of Education requires that we solicit applications every year, even though we don't necessarily see a need to add an additional charter school in our system. There's an application pending before LAPESC, a type 2 charter application that was denied by the Lafayette Parish School Board. So this to me is one of the most important questions facing any school board in Louisiana today, is how are you going to approach the proliferation of charter schools in your district? I would like to see a charter school policy for the Lafayette Parish public school system that allows us, enables us to be the architects of the public school system in Lafayette Parish. We can do this, we know how to do it. Bessie and the state of Baton Rouge, excuse me, the state of Louisiana needs to let us do it.
Thank you. Also in District 6, Mr. Santani, your view of the role of charter schools in public education and the presence of charters here in Lafayette Parish.
Well, you know, we have to live in reality, and the reality is that charters are here, and this is a state issue that's not going to get changed by the school board. My goal is to have everyone in Lafayette Parish have the confidence in the public education system that I have. I pulled my daughter out of private school and enrolled her at Myrtle Place for the French immersion program. I think the Lafayette Parish school system offered a superior educational product for my child, so I took advantage of it. But what we have on the north side and in Youngsville is we have the parents of 1,000, just a little under 1,000 students telling us that we're not meeting their needs. And rather than continuing to fight the charter schools, we should listen to the parents and ask them, what are we doing wrong? What can we do to meet your needs? How can we get you to come back into the school system? How can we deliver a superior product? Because that's the way to get them to come back. While we diligently earn that confidence that we've shattered with these parents, we need to let these charter schools supplement our facilities, because this is what's happening. We had 960 students, I think, leave the school system this year and enroll in charter schools. Despite that, we have 400 more than we had last year. So that, by my math, it's 1,360 students that we would have to find a place for. That I don't think we would. We wouldn't have a place on the bus. They would be in more Butler buildings. I mean, the charter schools are doing what the superintendent said they would, is relieve facilities. And as far as the cost goes, you know, there's a lot of numbers thrown about, and I've heard 15 million, I've heard 12 million, I've heard 8 million. And what I've done since being a financial analyst, I did the math myself, and I came up with 2.5 million is what it's going to end up costing us this year to have these charter schools in Lafayette Parish. And it's because of this population growth, because we're not like other parishes. We're not like the parishes where charter schools are replacing public schools. They're serving a need for us, and I think that's okay. We shouldn't fight that.
Thank you. Next, District 4, Ms. Williams, same question. Your view of the role of charter schools in public education and the presence of charters here in Lafayette Parish.
I am always going to be an advocate for public education. I graduated from a public school, and all 3 of my children graduated from a public school. But I will tell you from experience in District 4 that charter schools have offered the parents of District 4 an option. They have offered parents an option to make sure that their children are properly educated and that they have the resources that they need to do that. Now, on last Friday, I decided I would go by Willow Charter Academy in the morning when they were dropping students off. And as the cars would pull through, I would speak to parents. And the energy from the parents and the energy from the students was contagious. It was contagious. That told me something very, very, very serious about District 4. There are parents in District 4 that value education, and they want the opportunity to have a proper education for their children. Now, there is one thing that we can learn from a charter school experience, and I would love to go back and talk to some more parents. We can learn how to fix the public school system. We can learn exactly what they're missing in the public school system. I enjoy a challenge. I want to fix my public school so that it's enticing enough that the parents that went to charter school would want to come back to the public school system.
Thank you. District 5, Mr. Bouillon, same question. Role of charter schools in public education and the presence of charters here in Lafayette Parish.
You know, I'm disappointed to see our tax dollars leaving Louisiana. Those tax dollars are going to Florida. They're going to other states. It's your money that's paying for that charter school, and that's your money going to Florida. You should be concerned. But all in all, I can say that the charter schools maybe were a blessing for Lafayette Parish because we had some overcrowding issues taking place, especially on the south side. And as you well know, they have 2 charter schools that are planning, and one has already opened on the south side. Broussard and Youngsville is booming. Those mayors have begged us for new schools. We've turned a deaf ear to them. And they're still booming as I speak. And we have yet to talk about building a new school. The New York Times wrote an editorial about charter schools, and it says that they're operating in 40 states, and often in the survey that they conducted, the charter schools are performing worse than the public schools. And they suggest in an editorial that state government needs to do a better job in overseeing these charters. So for all of you sitting in here, who's going to oversee those charter schools in Lafayette? Someone has to do it. The way it worked out with the school board, they have a type 2 charter, so we're not going to be getting too much cooperation from them. If we had had a type 1 charter school, we could have worked in compromise with the charter school, but that never happened. We have a type 2. In other words, the school board didn't approve the charters. BESSE, the State Board of Education, approved that charter and forced it upon us in Lafayette Parish. I want to tell you a quick story. At one of my school districts, there was a parent who pulled her kid out of an A school to send, three parents pulled their kids out of an A school and sent them to the charter schools. I want you to know, after 3 days, those parents were back begging to get back into the public school system.
Thank you, Mr. Bouillon. We'll switch gears a bit to discuss some strategic issues. One of the most important responsibilities of the school board is to work with the administration on the development of short and long-range strategic plans for the school system. The plan most recently adopted by the current board is the 100% in, 100% out turnaround plan. So this is a 2-part question. What is your vision for public education in Lafayette Parish, and what factors are necessary to achieve that vision? And do you fully support the 100% in, 100% out plan? And we'll begin with Mr. Bouillon, District 5.
Yes, I absolutely support the 100% in, 100% out plan. Part of that plan is the health and wellness that Dr. Cooper came into town, and he sold me on it early on. You have some kids that are going to school and they're not feeling well. They may have a toothache. And because that child is not feeling well, that child ends up disrupting the classroom. Unfortunately, that child did not have at home the proper guidance to understand that maybe he should have been going to the dentist that morning instead of going to school. So here we are, we have a child who's misbehaving, but he's also sick. Don't you think it's our duty to make sure that we do something to help that child? And that's where Dr. Cooper's plan, health and wellness, has come in part of the 100% in, 100% out. And I think every money, every dollar that we spent on health and wellness is well worth it, because let's face it, some of those kids are not getting the things at their home that they should be getting, and now it's up to the school board to take care of that. And in talking about the long-range plan, I mentioned it earlier. If we continue to fund the 100% in, 100% out turnaround plan, I really, truly believe that Lafayette Parish will be an A district. You will have people proud to be involved with the Lafayette Parish public school system. And we're right around the corner from doing that. We are now a B district, whereas 2 years ago we were a C district. So any way I can help Dr. Cooper with his 100% in, 100% out, any way I can help him with health and wellness for some of these kids from poverty, I will do everything I can to help them.
Thank you, Mr. Bouillon. Moving over to District 4, Ms. Williams, what is your vision for public education in Lafayette Parish, and what factors are necessary to achieve that vision? And then the second part is, do you support the 100% in, 100% out turnaround plan?
My vision for Lafayette Parish is that all children of pre-K age are enrolled in a quality pre-K center. I think that catching students as early as possible on the educational setting is going to benefit us when we start to put them into kindergarten. I also would like to see every high school in Lafayette Parish with a graduation rate of 90% or higher, and of those, I would like to see at least 90% or more of those students ready and prepared to go into a four-year or a technical institution and enter as a freshman rather than a remedial student. Too many of the students, especially in District 4, are not able to go to four-year universities. They are going into secondary schools, and they are going in as remedial students. That has to stop. Another thing is that we need to begin to motivate the community, the staff, the students, as well as the teachers. There is a lack of motivation in our district, and we need to get that back on track. Some of the ideas that I have in my vision includes a parish-wide accountability system for pre-K centers. Those centers that are serving pre-K needs for our children need to be held to some type of standard of accountability. Also, continued support of instructional strategists in our at-risk schools. The way to correct our school system and the academic achievement and the performance in the at-risk school, we need some type of strategy that will address the instruction of our students. After-school tutoring with transportation options is also key. That is key in making sure that the performance levels continue to increase in our school system. I am 100% on board with the turnaround plan. I think that the turnaround plan speaks volumes for District 4 because as I read the turnaround plan, all 141 pages, it talks about my children.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. We'll move over to District 6. Ms. Espinoza, what is your vision for public education in Lafayette Parish, and what factors are necessary to achieve that vision? And do you support the 100% in, 100% out turnaround plan?
I think if I could boil my vision down to one word, it's probably initiative. You know, I think that as a school board, we want to be careful not to micromanage the system or the plan itself. So to me, I want to reject passivity. You know, if we can't be passive with the school accountability system that doesn't give us the information we need to identify problems at the school level. We can't be passive when Baton Rouge sends us a teacher evaluation system that sends our highly qualified, experienced teachers out the door. We can't be passive when Baton Rouge sends us a charter school law that sends our tax dollars across the country. So as a board, we need to be aggressive and focused on what we can do to facilitate the execution of the turnaround plan. As far as the turnaround plan, or the 100% plan, or the wraparound plan, as I actually like to call it, I think Dr. Cooper will be the first to tell you that it's not his plan. This is the community's plan. And so we are all invested in it. And I think most public policy experts will tell you that no plan should be a static document. It has to be amended, it has to be evaluated, it has to be regularly looked at in the context of, are these dollars being spent effectively? Are some things working or some things not working? And that's what we should expect from the management end of the system, to present that to a school board, to prove to us that some elements are working, some elements are not. And so then let's fix it, let's tweak it, let's make it a better document.
Thank you. Mr. Centani, same question. What is your vision for public education in our parish, and what factors are necessary to achieve that vision, and do you support the turnaround plan?
Well, I would love if every child in Lafayette Parish chose to go to public schools. I understand that we would not get some whose parents choose private schools for religious reasons, but once we stop having private school parents choose private schools for educational reasons, then I think we've achieved success. Now, the mission of the school board is to educate every child, and the way to achieve that mission is the turnaround plan. So I'm a supporter 100%. And I know some people want to target the turnaround plan, pick and choose what we implement, but I think that's the wrong way to go about it. I don't think we should, I refuse to accept the idea that I'm only going to accomplish my mission if I have the money. My job is to find the money to accomplish my mission, and what we can do now is the school board has done a fantastic job over the last 10 years of replenishing the reserve fund. That $7 or $8 million every year that they've been putting away until we had the 3 months of operating expenses saved up. That was just a good job of being fiscally responsible. And now that we've been responsible, what we can do is take that $7 to $12 million we collect every year over the previous year's sales tax levels and fund the turnaround plan. That's what Dr. Cooper wanted to do, and that's what the current board majority refused to do this year. So they chose not to fund the turnaround plan. I would have done it if I were on that board.
Thank you very much. We have come to the final question of the evening. The most important question facing voters this fall is why they should cast their ballot for you. Please take this time as we close to tell the voters why you should be elected to the Lafayette Parish School Board, and we'll start in District 6 with Mr. Centani.
I'm a passionate problem solver. I solve problems every day. What I do in my professional life is I give employees the ability and the tools they need to perform their job without telling them how to do their job. And this goes all the way from bank tellers up to the CEO. And that's what this board needs, is the ability to enable people to do their job. I'm not an educator. My talents lie outside the classroom. And what our teachers and students need are people that will deliver the resources and the guidance and support they need to get our children out of school on time. That's where my talents lie. My talents lie in the financial area. I can deliver these resources. Now, I know the Lafayette Parish Public School System can achieve. I see the French Immersion Program, of which my daughter is a part, and I see the Gifted Program, and I see the turnaround plan. I know we can achieve. We don't have anything to fear from charter schools or private schools or anything else. I believe in the public school system, and I really hope that we can encourage people to join the public school system instead of compelling them. I mean, I put Lafayette High School up against any high school in the state, and I think we would do very well. My general philosophy is I'd rather compete than complain. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Espinoza, same question. Please take this time to tell the voters of District 6 why you should be their representative on the school board.
Well, I attended almost all the schools in District 6, S.J. Montgomery, Myrtle Place, Lafayette Middle, it was Lafayette Elementary then, and Lafayette High School. So I feel a personal compassion and investment in the system. I have 4 children that are currently attending public schools in this system. I have a teacher who is an educator in this public school system. I am an educator myself at the university in a public education system. So, I think about education a lot, and I think about District 6 a lot. And as a parent and as an educator, you feel a sense of, I'm an impatient person, and so it's hard for me to sit back when I see things that I want to do, that I want to make a contribution to my community, and this is one way that I'd like to do it. And so it's been very nice walking District 6 these past several weeks and walking into neighborhoods that I haven't walked in for a while and running into people that I haven't seen in a very long time. And it's definitely given me a renewed sense of community. And I will leave this experience, win or lose, with a renewed sense of community and commitment to the school system. And I would just hope that the voters of District 6 will consider that.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, please tell the voters of District 4 why you should be elected to the Lafayette Parish School Board.
First of all, I would like to say that I am a transformational leader. A transformational leader enhances the motivation and morale of followers. These include connecting the followers' sense of identity and self to a common vision, being a role model for followers that inspires them and makes them interested, challenging followers to take greater ownership of the vision. I'm not just running to occupy a seat on the school board. I am running to transform my community. I'm running to build community relationships which promotes educational success. I'm running to see more students enter college and the workforce, not only prepared, but competitive. I'm running to ensure that a 9th grade cohort class that starts together is a 12th grade class that graduates together. You see, I'm on the street corners every morning waving at my community. It's not because I don't have to go to work, but it's because I want to show my community that I am out there, I am going to be out there, and after this election, win or lose, I will still be out there. I have volunteered with many organizations in the community. I'm a Red Cross instructor. I volunteered with Games of Acadiana, the United Way. I've also volunteered with Lambda Xi Omega, which is a criminal justice organization at Remington College, and we do a lot of service organizations in the community. I told my campaign manager, I'm not a politician, but I am a public servant. And I think that's what this community needs. The community needs more public servants, those that are looking out for the people of our community and have their best interest in mind.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. And Mr. Bouillon, please take this time to tell the voters of District 5 why you should be re-elected to the Lafayette Parish School Board.
I'd like to give a little bit of history about myself. I'm a graduate of USL. I finished USL in industrial education. I then became a teacher. I taught for over 20 years for the Lafayette Parish School Board. And believe you me, I've seen some discipline problems firsthand. I know what it's like. I have in my family my wife who is still teaching school. She's in her 30th year. I have 2 daughters who are school teachers. One teaches in Lafayette Parish, one teaches in Acadia Parish. Of my 6 daughters that I have, no sons, all 6 daughters graduated from a public school. They all graduated from Acadiana High School, and 5 of those 6 daughters have graduated from USL. So education has been a very, very important part in my life. My record speaks for itself. I don't need to make up anything. You can look at the minutes and you can see how I voted at the school board. I have been consistently supporting our superintendent because I believe he's on the right track. There is a great divide in the Lafayette Parish School Board. And if you do read the papers and follow the news, yes, you could say it's dysfunctional because you have 6 school board members who are out to destroy everything that the superintendent has implemented in his 2 years. And you have 3 board members that want to work with him. And I want the public to know that I'm in that minority of 3 board members who want to work with the superintendent. While they're out spending money on hiring attorneys and investigating the superintendent, I'm trying to see what we can do to increase our test scores in my district and throughout the parish. The other thing I'm very proud of, besides my record, is that in the 4 years I've been a school board member, I and Shelton Cobb are the only 2 school board members to have perfect attendance. I have not missed one regular school board meeting in 4 years. Very proud of that. I've taken this job very, very seriously. And it's time to stop, but I promised some people I have to say something in French. Pour tous mes amis qu'après nous guetter sur la télévision ce soir, merci pour votre soutien. Et comme mon vieux ami, le défunt Jimmy C. Newman a dit dans une chanson, lâche pas la patate.
Now, I went through French immersion from K all the way to 12, and I'm ashamed I don't know what you just said.
It was all Cajun.
Okay, that helps me a little bit with my excuse. Thank you so much for closing out with that colorful closing, Mr. Bouillon. In closing, we at LAPESC and the community as a whole thank all of you for taking the time this evening, making the sacrifice to be here this evening as candidates to share with the community what your vision is for our school system. So we do thank you for your time and your participation this evening. We also thank the audience for your attendance, for your attention as well. Once again, I would like to put in a plug for our sponsors, the 705, the Greater Lafayette Chamber of Commerce, the Pugh Family Foundation, United Way of Acadiana, and our partners AOC and the Light Center. Everyone, please do not forget to go out and vote. Early voting will run from October 21st through the 28th. Election day is November 4th, and if a runoff is necessary, that day to go out and vote will be December the 6th. And we, once again, thank everybody for your time and attention. Have a good night.